You don't decide to doom scroll. It happens to you. One moment, you're checking a notification. The next, you're 27 posts deep into a stream of disasters, outrage, tragedies, and fears you didn't even know existed 10 minutes ago. A plane incident, a violent crime, an economic warning, a political argument, a prediction that society is collapsing. And somehow, despite feeling worse with every swipe, you keep going. Why? Why do intelligent people willingly consume content that makes them anxious? Why do millions of people spend hours every week staring at information that leaves them feeling powerless? And why does it feel so difficult to stop? The answer has almost nothing to do with self-control, and everything to do with a psychological trap that most people never realize they're inside. Imagine you're living 20,000 years ago. You're walking through a forest. Suddenly, you hear movement in the bushes. Now your brain has two choices. Option 1, it's probably nothing. Option 2, it could be dangerous. The people who repeatedly chose the second option survived more often. The people who ignored potential threats often didn't. That's why your brain isn't designed to seek happiness first. It's designed to detect danger first. Safety before satisfaction. Survival before peace. And that ancient survival system still operates inside your skull today. The problem? The world changed. Your brain didn't. Thousands of years ago, your ancestors encountered a limited number of threats. Today, you can witness more danger in 10 minutes than they encountered in an entire month. Your nervous system was built for occasional threats, not an endless live stream of humanity's worst moments. Yet every day, that's exactly what many people feed it. And the consequences are far deeper than most realize. Think about your average doom-scrolling session. You don't start looking for bad news. You start looking for information. There's a difference. You tell yourself you're staying informed, trying to understand what's happening, trying to keep up, trying to be prepared. That sounds reasonable. In fact, it sounds responsible. But then, something strange happens. Instead of feeling informed, you feel overwhelmed. Instead of feeling prepared, you feel helpless. Instead of feeling connected to reality, you feel trapped inside a distorted version of it. Why? Because doom scrolling isn't really about information. It's about uncertainty. And uncertainty is one of the most psychologically uncomfortable experiences a human being can feel. Imagine waiting for important medical results, or waiting to hear whether you got accepted into your dream college, or waiting for a text message that could change your future. Notice how your mind behaves. It keeps searching, replaying scenarios, looking for answers, trying to reduce uncertainty. Your brain hates unanswered questions. It wants closure. It wants certainty. It wants control. Social media accidentally discovered something powerful. If you keep people uncertain, they'll keep looking, and looking, and looking. The next post might explain everything. The next video might provide the answer. The next update might finally make you feel safe. But it never does, because the feed has no ending. It's a story that never concludes, a puzzle that never gets solved, a conversation that never reaches a final sentence, and your brain keeps chasing a finish line that doesn't exist. But that's only the first layer. The second layer is where things become darker. Imagine a friend tells you that shark attacks happened twice this month. You'd probably think, interesting, then move on. Now imagine watching 50 shark attack videos over the next week. Even if the actual risk hasn't changed, something inside you changes. The ocean feels different. The danger feels larger. The threat feels closer. Why? Because the human brain doesn't measure reality perfectly. It estimates reality based on what's easiest to remember. Psychologists call this the availability heuristic. But you don't need the fancy term to understand it. The more often you see something, the more common it feels. And social media is a machine built around repetition. If your feed constantly shows conflict, the world starts looking more hostile. If it constantly shows crime, the world starts looking more dangerous. If it constantly shows outrage, humanity starts looking more divided. You begin carrying a version of reality that may not actually exist. Not because you're irrational, because you're human. And here's where many people make a mistake. They think doom scrolling is making them more informed. Sometimes it's doing the opposite. Real understanding requires context, perspective, nuance, time. Doom scrolling provides fragments, pieces, snapshots, 1,000 disconnected moments stitched together into a narrative that often isn't true. Imagine trying to understand an entire movie by watching random 5-second clips. You'd leave confused. Yet that's exactly how many people consume the world every day. They know a little about everything and deeply understand almost nothing. Then something even more subtle begins to happen. Your nervous system starts adapting, not to reality, to exposure. Every alarming headline triggers a tiny stress response. Every conflict triggers another. Every frightening prediction triggers another. Individually, they seem harmless. Collectively, they become significant. Your body wasn't designed to experience hundreds of stress signals every day. Yet many people do exactly that. And after months or years, they wonder why they feel exhausted, why they struggle to focus, why they feel mentally drained before the day even begins. The answer isn't always obvious, because the stress doesn't come from one dramatic event. It comes from thousands of small ones, like drops of water slowly filling a bucket. Eventually, the bucket overflows. But perhaps the darkest effect of doom scrolling isn't anxiety. It's learned helplessness. This idea emerged from psychological experiments decades ago. Researchers found that when individuals repeatedly experience situations they can't influence, many eventually stop trying to change anything at all. They become passive, resigned, defeated. Now think about the modern feed. Every day you're exposed to wars you can't stop, problems you can't solve, crises you can't control, disasters you can't prevent. For hours at a time, your brain absorbs all of it, but has almost no meaningful way to respond. And over time, a dangerous belief can emerge. Nothing I do matters. Not because it's true, because that's what constant powerlessness feels like. And that feeling slowly spreads beyond the screen. You hesitate to pursue goals. You delay decisions. You stop taking action, not consciously, quietly, gradually, without noticing. The feed teaches you to watch, while life requires you to participate, and participation is becoming increasingly rare. Think about it. Never before in human history have so many people spent so much time observing life instead of living it. Watching relationships, watching success, watching adventures, watching opinions, watching arguments, watching history unfold, all from a small glowing rectangle, hour after hour, day after day, year after year. The irony is heartbreaking. Many people feel connected to the world while becoming disconnected from themselves. They know what's happening everywhere, but have lost touch with what's happening inside their own lives. The goals they once cared about, the hobbies they abandoned, the conversations they postponed, the dreams they promised they'd start someday, and someday quietly becomes next year, then 5 years later, then never. Because attention is not just a resource. Attention is your life. Whatever consistently receives it eventually shapes your identity. The person you become is largely determined by what repeatedly occupies your mind. If you spend years rehearsing fear, fear becomes familiar. If you spend years rehearsing outrage, outrage becomes natural. If you spend years consuming hopelessness, hopelessness begins feeling realistic. Not because reality changed, because your mental environment changed. So does this mean you should ignore the world? Of course not. Ignorance isn't wisdom, but neither is endless consumption. The goal isn't to know less. The goal is to consume information with intention instead of addiction. To seek understanding rather than stimulation. To remain aware without becoming trapped. Because the truth is that the world contains both tragedy and beauty, both chaos and kindness, both danger and possibility. Yet algorithms are remarkably good at showing one side more than the other. Not because they're evil, because attention follows emotion. And fear captures attention better than peace ever could. Which means protecting your mind has become a modern responsibility. No one else can do it for you. Not the platform. Not the algorithm. Not the people posting content. Only you. So the next time you find yourself scrolling late at night, pause for a moment. Look around. Notice the room you're sitting in. The life that's actually yours. The people who know your name. The goals still waiting for your effort. The opportunities that exist beyond the screen. And ask yourself one question. Am I consuming life right now, or am I living it? Because one day, the headlines will be forgotten. The controversies will fade. The trending stories will disappear. The endless feed will move on without you. But the hours you gave it, those never come back. And that may be the most important thing doomscrolling never tells you. The greatest thing it steals isn't your attention. It's your time. And time is the one thing nobody gets to scroll back and recover.